murders that occurred on the evening of March 31st, 1922, when 6 inhabitants of a small Bavarian farmstead located in Munich, Germany, were murdered by an unknown assailant. The 6 victims were Andreas Gruber, aged 63, and Cecilia Gruber, aged 72. Their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, aged 35. Victoria's children, Cecilia, aged 7, and Joseph, aged 2. And the maid, Maria Baumgartner, aged 44. They were all found struck dead. 4 of the dead bodies were stacked up in the barn, the victims having been lured in there one by one. Prior to the incident, the family and their previous maid reported hearing strange sounds coming from the attic, which led the maid to quit. The murders are considered one of the most gruesome and puzzling unsolved crimes in German history. Strange things began to occur in and around Hinterkeifek sometime shortly before the attack. 6 months prior to the attack, the family maid had quit. It has been widely claimed that her reason for leaving was that she heard strange noises coming from the attic and believed the house to be haunted. Andreas Gruber found a strange newspaper from Munich on the property in March 1922. He could not remember buying it and initially believed that the postman had lost the newspaper. This was not the case, however, as no one in the vicinity subscribed to the paper. Just days before the murders, Gruber told neighbors he discovered tracks in the fresh snow that led from the forest to a broken door lock in the farm's machine room. Later during the night, they heard footsteps in the attic, but Gruber found no one when he searched the building. Although he told several people about these alleged observations, he refused to accept help, and details went unreported to the police. According to a school friend of the 7-year-old Cecilia Gabriel, the young girl reported that her mother Victoria had fled the farm the night before the act after a violent quarrel, and only hours later had been found in the forest. On the afternoon of March 31st, 1922, a Friday, the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, arrived at the farm. Maria's sister had escorted her there and left the farm after a short stay. She was most likely the last person to see the inhabitants alive. It appears that in the late evening, Victoria Gabriel, her 7-year-old daughter Cecilia, and her parents, Andreas and Cecilia, were lured to the family barn through the stable, where they were murdered one at a time. The perpetrator or perpetrators used a mattock belonging to the family farm and killed the family with blows to the head. The perpetrator moved into the living quarters where, with the same murder weapon, he killed Joseph, sleeping in his bassinet, and Baumgartner in her bedchamber. 4 days passed between the murders and the discovery of the bodies. On April 1st, coffee sellers Hans Skrivovsky and Edward Skrivovsky arrived in Hinterkeifek to take an order. When no one responded to the knocks on the door and the window, they walked around the yard but found no one. They only noticed that the gate to the machine house was open before they decided to leave. Cecilia Gabriel was absent without excuse for the next few days of school, and the family failed to show up for Sunday worship. Assembler Albert Hoffner went to Hinterkeifek on April 4th to repair an engine. He stated that he had not seen any of the family and has heard nothing but sounds of farm animals and the dog inside the barn. After waiting for an hour, he decided to start his repair, which he completed in roughly 4.5 hours. Around 3:30 p.m., Lorenz Schlittenbauer sent his son Johann, 16, and stepson Joseph, 9, to Hinterkeifek to see if they could make contact with the family. When they reported that they did not see anyone, Schlittenbauer headed to the farm the same day with Michael Pohl and Jacob Sigel. Entering the barn, they found the bodies of Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia Gruber, his daughter Victoria Gabriel, and his granddaughter Cecilia murdered in the barn. Shortly after, they found the chambermaid, Maria Baumgartner, and the youngest family member, Victoria's son, Joseph, murdered in the home. Inspector George Reingruber and his department investigated the killings. Initial investigations were hampered by the number of people who was the most likely murder weapon, though the weapon itself was not at the scene. Evidence showed that the younger Casilia had been alive for several hours after the assault. She had torn her hair out in tufts while laying in the straw. The skulls of the victims were removed and sent to Munich for further examination. The police first suspected the motive to be robbery, and they interrogated traveling craftsmen, vagrants, and several inhabitants from the surrounding villages. When a large amount of money was found in the house, they abandoned this theory. It was clear the perpetrators had remained at the farm for several days. Someone had fed the cattle, eaten the entire supply of bread from the kitchen, and had recently cut meat from the pantry. With no clear motive to be gleaned from the crime scene, the police began to formulate a list of suspects. Despite repeated arrests, no murderer has ever been found, and the files were closed in 1955. Nevertheless, the last interrogations took place in 1986 before Kriminalhauptkommissar Konrad Mueller retired. In the inspection record of the court commission, it was noted that the victims were probably drawn to the barn by restlessness in the stable, resulting in noises from the animals. A later attempt, however, revealed that at least human screams from the barn could not be heard in the living area. On the night after the crime, 3 days before the bodies were discovered, the artisan Michael Block happened to pass by Hinterkeifek. Block observed that the oven had been heated by someone. The person had approached him with a lantern and blinded him, whereupon he hastily continued on his way. Block also noticed that the smoke from the fireplace had a disgusting smell. This instance was not investigated, and there was no investigations conducted to determine what had been burned that night in the oven. On April 1st at 3 a.m., the farmer and butcher Simon Reiblander, on the way home near Brunnen, saw two unknown figures at the edge of the forest. When the strangers saw him, they turned around so that their faces could not be seen. Later, when he heard of the murders in Hinterkeifek, he thought it possible that the strangers might be involved. In the middle of May 1927, a stranger was said to have stopped a resident of Weidhofen at midnight. He asked him questions about the murder and then shouted that he was the murderer before he ran in the woods. The stranger was never identified. Here are a list of potential suspects. Carl Gabriel, the husband of Victoria Gabriel. Carl Gabriel had reportedly been killed in Arras, France by a shell attack in December 1914 during the First World War. However, his body has never been recovered. After the murders, people began to speculate on whether he had indeed died in the war. Victoria Gabriel had given birth to Joseph in her husband's absence. 2-year-old Joseph was rumored to be the son of Victoria and her father Andreas, who had an incestuous relationship that was documented in court and known in the village. He was sexually assaulting his daughter, and the town convicted them both of incest. After the end of Second World War, war captives from the Schrobenhausen region, who were released prematurely from Soviet captivity, claimed that they had been sent home by a German-speaking Soviet officer who claimed to be the murderer of Hinterkeifek. Some of these men later revised their statements, however, which diminishes their credibility. Many theorized that the Soviet officer might be Carl Gabriel because those who claimed to have seen the man after his reported death testified that Gabriel had wanted to go to Russia. When I started reading that, I was thinking, that sounds really weak. But then after finishing it, I mean, kind of sounds plausible, actually. That is literally crazy. Okay. Second suspect is Lorenz Schlittenbauer. Shortly after the death of his first wife in 1918, Lorenz Schlittenbauer was believed to have had a relationship with Victoria Gabriel and father Joseph. Schlittenbauer came under suspicion by locals early in the investigation because of his several suspicious actions immediately after the discovery of the bodies. When Schlittenbauer and his friends arrived to investigate, they had to break a gate to enter the barn because all of the doors were locked. However, immediately after finding the 4 bodies in the barn, Schlittenbauer apparently unlocked the front door with a key and suspiciously entered the house alone. A key to the house had gone missing several days before the murders, though it is also possible that Schlittenbauer, as a neighbor or as Victoria's potential lover, might have been given a key. When asked by his companions why he had gone into the house alone when it was unclear if the murderer might still be there, Schlittenbauer allegedly stated that he went to look for his son Joseph. It is known that Schlittenbauer had disturbed the bodies at the scene, thus potentially compromising the investigation. For many years after, local suspicion remained on Schlittenbauer because of his strange comments, which were seen as indicating knowledge of details that only the killer would recall. According to his information in the files for the case, local teacher Hans Jeblager discovered Schlittenbauer visiting the remains of the demolished Hinterkeifek in 1925. Upon being asked why he was there, Schlittenbauer stated that the perpetrator's attempt to bury the family's remains in the barn had been hindered by the frozen ground. This was seen as evidence that Schlittenbauer had intimate knowledge of the conditions of the ground at the time of the murders, although, being a neighbor and familiar with the local land, he may have been making an educated guess. Another speculation was that Schlittenbauer murdered the family after Victoria demanded financial support for young Joseph. Before his death in 1941, Schlittenbauer conducted and won several civil claims for slander against persons who described him as the murderer of Hinterkeifek. That also kind of sounds plausible. Well, there's a lot of suspects, actually. The third suspect is the Gump brothers. Adolf Gump was listed as a suspect as early as April 9th due to his connections to the Freikorps Oberland. In 1951, prosecutor Andreas Popp investigated brothers Adolf and Anton Gump in relation to the murders at Hinterkeifek. Their sister Crescentia Mayer claimed on her deathbed that Adolf and Anton had committed the murders. As a result, Anton Gump was remanded to police custody, but Adolf had already died in 1944. After a short time, however, Anton was dismissed again, and in 1954 the case against him was finally discontinued because he could not be proven to have participated in the crime. The fourth suspect was Carl S. and Andreas S. In 1971, a woman named Therese T. wrote a letter citing an event in her youth. At the age of 12, she witnessed her mother receiving a visit from the mother of the brothers Carl and Andreas S. The woman claimed that her sons from Sattelberg were the 2 murderers of Hinterkeifek. The mother said Andreas regretted that he lost his penknife in the course of the conversation. In fact, when the farm was demolished in 1923, a pocket knife was found that could not be clearly assigned to anyone. However, the knife could have easily belonged to one of the murder victims. This track was followed without result. Crescens Rieger, the former maid of Hinterkeifek, was certain she had already seen the penknife in the yard during her service. The fifth suspect is Peter Weber. Peter Weber was named a suspect by Joseph Betts. The 2 worked together in the winter of 1919 and 1920 as laborers, and they shared a room. According to Betts, Weber spoke of a remote farm, Hinterkeifek. Weber knew that only one old couple lived there with their daughter and her 2 children. It is likely he knew about the incest between Gruber and his daughter. Betts testified in a hearing that Weber had suggested killing the old man to get the family's money. When Betts did not respond to the offer, Weber stopped talking about it. The sixth suspect is the Bickler brothers and George Siegel. The former maid, Crescens Rieger, worked from November 1920 to about September 1921 at Hinterkeifek. She suspected the brothers Anton and Carl Bickler to have committed the murders. Anton Bickler had helped with the potato harvest at Hinterkeifek and therefore knew the premises. Rieger said Bickler talked to her often about the Gruber and Gabriel family. Anton reportedly suggested that the family ought to be dead. The maid also emphasized in her interrogation that the farm dog who barked at everyone never barked at Anton. In addition, she reported speaking with a stranger through her window at night. The maid believed that it was Carl Bickler, the brother of Anton. She thought that Anton and Carl Bickler could have committed the murder together with George Siegel, who had worked at Hinterkeifek and knew of the family fortune. Supposedly, Siegel had broken into the home in November 1920 and stolen a number of items, though he denied it. He did state that he had carved the handle of a murder weapon when he was working at Hinterkeifek and knew that the tool would have been kept in the barn passage. Honestly, this is kind of getting confusing because apparently every man in Germany has the same exact name. There's so many Antons and Josephs and Carls, like, I can't keep track. The next suspect is the Thaler brothers. The Thaler brothers were also suspected according to a statement by the former maid, Crescens Rieger. The brothers had already committed several minor burglaries in the area before the crime. Rieger said that Joseph Thaler, what did I just say? Another Joseph. Joseph Thaler stood at her window at night and asked her questions about the family, but she gave no answer. In conversation, Joseph Thaler claimed to know which family member was sleeping in which room and stated that he had a lot of money. During their conversation, Rieger noted that there was another person nearby. According to her statement, Joseph Thaler and the stranger had looked at the machine house and turned their eyes upwards. Now I'm kind of wondering what kind of person Crescens is. Crescens Rieger, the former maid. She's accusing a lot of people. A lot of people. And honestly, these last two were very similar. The Thaler brothers and the Bickler brothers and George Siegel, she both, like, talked to them at her window. Like, I don't know about those ones. I don't know if we can trust Crescens Rieger, because that is kind of the same story both times, but different people that she's accusing. I don't know about that. Anyways, the last suspect, Paul Mueller. Author Bill James, in his book The Man from the Train, alleges that a man known as Paul Mueller may have been responsible for the murders. Mueller was the only suspect in the 1897 murder of a Massachusetts family, and James believes Mueller killed dozens of victims based on research in American newspaper archives. The Hinterkeifek murders bear some similarities to Mueller's suspected crimes in the United States, including the slaughter of an entire family in their isolated home, use of the blunt edge of a farm tool as a weapon, a pickaxe, moving and stacking bodies of the victims, and the apparent absence of robbery as a motive. James suspects that Mueller, described as a German immigrant in contemporary media, might have departed the U.S. for his homeland by 1912, after private investigators and journalists began to notice and publicize patterns in family murders across state lines. So those are all of the suspects. I think that the first two sound the most plausible. The other ones are kind of like a bit weak. And then I don't know what's up with Crescens Rieger, because she's accusing a lot of people. She's looking a little fishy too, to be honest. Or maybe she just is that kind of, like, those kinds of people in the true crime cases that just, like, love to accuse a bunch of people because they like attention. Like, they just keep inserting themselves in the conversation kind of thing. I don't know. It's a very weird case. And it's even weirder too because the former maid, Crescens, who we said we can't trust, she reported hearing sounds coming from the attic before the incident, which led her to quit her job, because she was, like, so scared that it was haunted, which is so strange, because then it makes me think, like, someone also, like I said in the beginning, where they were, like, finding a newspaper that didn't belong to any of them, or, like, stuff like that, or, like, the footprints in the snow, which indicates that someone was living there without them knowing, or someone was around them prior to the attack that they didn't know about, which is probably, you know, the assailant, which is so curious and really scary. Like, that's my worst nightmare. I honestly have literally no theory as to like who could have done it or anything like that, because some of the theories, yeah, they're plausible, but I don't know if I